Greetings, peers and queers. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since I've done a video. In fact, the last time that I did a video was in October, I want to say, October of 2024. And that was the day I had gotten out of, the day that I was released from the behavioral ward of my local hospital. I spent 5 days amongst two hospitals. I spent 5 days in a behavioral ward because I had a self-deletion moment. I had received the news, as most of us did, about who the United States next president was going to be. And I was like, yeah, I'm good. And I made plans to check out. Fortunately, I guess I didn't do that. And now I am the entire world's problem because I didn't do that. But here I am. It is currently February 2025. In fact, the day that I'm recording this, it is the new moon in Pisces. So February 27th. And yeah, I wanted my first video back on the channel to be something along the lines of March 31st. For those of you that don't know, March 31st every year is Transgender Day of Visibility. Fact, in 2024, there was this huge scandal how Easter had landed on Transgender Day of Visibility, and that a lot of conservatives had thought or took it that us transgenders, us queers, were infiltrating Easter and taking over the Easter property, when in fact, Easter itself switches dates every single year. Transgender Day of Visibility is always March 31st. And that's a day where we celebrate our transness and we look at the accomplishments that us, a very small portion of the population, what we've contributed back to society and acknowledging our existence. Easter, on the other hand, moves around dates, and for being a Christian holiday, it has some pretty pagan-y, witchy type roots. Easter is always on the Sunday following the full moon, on or after the spring equinox. You learn something. Yes, Easter is always the Sunday after the full moon of the spring equinox. Last year, 2024, that happened to coincide with March 31st, Transgender Day of Visibility. And once you know it, as the fates have allowed, this year, Easter is going to be falling on 420. And that's not a ha-ha pot reference. 420 is Hitler's birthday. And given the state of affairs here in North America, I think it's pretty telling that a lot of people had a problem with it happening on Transgender Day of Visibility last year, and now all of a sudden it's on Hitler's birthday. So there's that. But I wanted my first video back to be about Transgender Day of Visibility, and I would do my normal bit of here are some folks that you should be aware of, or folks that you should follow, people to look up to. The only one I really had on my list so far was Ella Ehrman. Ella Ehrman from Late Stage Live, which has now been renamed as Going Down with Ella Ehrman. She's this political comedian and writer, and the show that she was hosting and the show that she hosts now is very much like a early years of Saturday Night Live weekend update with very queer-centric snippets about the news and what's going on politically and economically throughout the planet. Really great show. Really well written. You should check it out. But this is not the 31st of March. This is not Transgender Day of Visibility. I wanted to kind of touch base on some things about, like, the classic bit of where I've been and what I've been doing with my life. This is it. I don't have a computer yet to go ahead and do all the flashy titles and the cutscenes and the picture-in-picture type stuff that I would normally do. And forgive me if my nose is running. It's been running since September. Hopefully it stops soon. But normally I would have a bunch of titles and picture-in-picture and do that whole YouTube thing. I don't have a computer right now. I am working towards getting a computer. And right now, I seem to be doing pretty all right for myself. Fingers crossed that, I continue to do so. Because I know that's turbulent times for a lot of people. But we're not going to make this super political. What we are going to do is we're going to talk about something that's been on my mind lately. Last April in 2024, I broke up with my then partner. And I've been single for coming on a year now. And I mean, I haven't been a nun. I've had a few encounters with a few different people. I think I've encountered 4 people. Maybe 4 people. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the mating ritual of transgender people, trans women in particular. This one little snippet, this one little freeze frame in time that we experience that most other people don't have to. Say that you're, two cis individuals and you're thinking about going on a date with each other and it's getting really awesome. And you either decide to take it to the next level, take it to the bedroom, or just see each other more often. You just do that. You find out what the person's interests are. You find out if you're interested in that person. And you just roll from there. For trans people, transgender women in particular, there's this whole section where you have to explain something about yourself that's very vulnerable, very telling, and supposed to be very private right off the bat to somebody who you're hoping to court. You're hoping to either have relations with or a relationship with. You have to be like, I like you too. Hey, by the way, let's put the brakes on it. You have to put your cards up front. You have to say, hey, my situation down there is a little bit different. You either come out and you say, hey, by the way, I'm trans. And then you have that conversation, which is what we're going to concentrate on, or you just spring it on them. And that's usually when bad stuff happens. If you're just hey, this is cool, and I like you, and then whoop, and you don't let the person know, especially if they had no idea, that's usually where things like arguments and violence tend to happen when you spring it on somebody. So a thing that trans people do, especially trans women, that cis people don't have to do, is right at the beginning of getting to know somebody and being like, wow, I like this person's face. I like their spirit. I like their moxie. And I'm thinking about being with this person. You have to make yourself vulnerable right at the jump street. Whether that's we saw each other a few times and now I'm going to tell them, or this is our first time meeting, or it's getting kind of steamy, we're getting ready to go back to their bedroom, my bedroom. You have to be like, hold up, partner. Listen. So that you're aware, I am trans. And what that means is XYZ. Sometimes it could be like, hey, you know I'm trans, right? And you'll either get, yeah, I know. Or you'll get, what? You're trans? I had no idea. And then it becomes a completely different story. That's different for each of us. I myself have had different iterations of both of those. Like, yeah, I knew you were trans, but also like, get out of here, prove it. To which I'll either use my daddy voice or I'll show them my state ID, and I'll be like, look at the letters there for marker, gender marker. So like right up front, when you really like somebody, you have to like embolden yourself, and you have to be like, hey, there's something that you need to know. And I've been on a date with a dude, and we were going to go get dinner and stuff like that. And I kind of told him, like, he said, I was like, so what are you looking for in life? And he's like, I don't know. I'm looking for, like a wife, and I want to have kids. And I'm like, I can't really have kids. And he's like, why not? And I'm like, well, for starters, I have my tubes tied. And secondly, I don't have ovaries. And he's like, I don't get it. And I'm like, I'm trans. And then, whoa, I've also had like, a guy friend, just a guy friend. Hey, this isn't romantic at all and stuff like that. Let's just hang out and I'll hold the door for you, because that's what a gentleman does. And you go first and like, hey, we're going out. Well, let me buy you your drinks. And then the second I'm like, yeah, so what's your opinion on trans people? Oh, well, I don't think that they should belong in sports at all. I'm like, let's remove sports out of it. Do you know any trans people? What's your opinion on trans people? And he's like, I don't know. They just do their thing and stuff. It doesn't really bother me. I don't think about it that much. And I'm like, you're talking to a trans person right now. He's like, what? No, prove it. And I'm like, okay, did the daddy voice. And he's like, what? How'd you do that? Are you a ventriloquist? And I'm like, no. And he's like, well, I don't believe you. And I'm like, either we can go to the bathroom and I can show you. Or, and that's why I pull out my state ID and I'm like, look at the sex marker. And that night in particular ended with him dropping me off at my place and being like, you know what, Jacee? If you were born a natural woman, if you were born a cis woman, I would absolutely ravage you, and it would be the best you've ever had. I've been told that I can go down better than most lesbians and stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's wonderful. And if I was interested, I would let you. He was a nice guy, but my ego was wounded. He was a nice guy. We're still friends. Didn't do anything because he's like, nope, I don't touch that. And I'm like, that stinks. In fact, I've had that like happen like twice where I reveal this about myself, be like, hey, some girls have an innie. I have an outie. Just like belly buttons. And they're like, kind of looking for somebody with an innie. And I'm like, okay, and they're like, God, you're beautiful. And like, you're athletic and you're funny and you have style and yada, yada, yada. If only you had, that. Then we could probably do something. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So that's the thing that like trans girls have to do, is we have to put the brakes on at a certain point, even if things are getting steamy or even if things are going well. And we have to be like, hold up a second, just so you know, this is what's between my legs. This is not true for all trans women. In fact, I know several trans women who have had gender reassignment surgery who have functioning vaginas. And yes, I am jealous of them. I am very jealous of them. And I'm going to name one right out loud, right off the bat. Justina, you know who you are. I'm super jealous of you. But it varies on what we're able to do medically, what we can afford medically, if we even want to. I know plenty of women who have, existed in their transness for decades, and they're like, I'm good with what I got. I like it. Other people seem to like it. And then I know other girls who are like, yeah, this is as quickly as I can, I'm doing this. But the point is that when it comes to trans people and trans women in particular, there's this courting ritual where at some point we have to be like, hey, dating alone isn't stressful enough. Finding someone that you are compatible with, finding someone that you are physically attracted to, finding somebody who you vibe with, and then right at your most vulnerable moment, you have to be like, by the way, there's this thing about me. Every full moon, I grow fangs and claws, and I get hairy all over, and I howl at the moon, and I slaughter innocents in a Romanian village. And they're like, you're a werewolf? And you're like, actually, no, I'm just trans, and I have a penis. Kind of wish that you were a werewolf. It happens sometimes. But then other times you'll get people who are like, yeah, that's cool. I knew, or I'm okay with it. Sometimes you'll get people who are like, I don't know. I've never been with anyone who has the same thing that I got, or anyone who has, like dangly bits down there and stuff. It's intimidating. It's weird. And then, like, you have to be like, okay, like, we're going to do back and forth, not necessarily debating, but, like, you have to, like, barter or make a trade agreement. Be like, this is what it's like. This is what you can expect. Don't, like, to quote Natalie Wynn, there is a feminine penis, and, like, the feminine penis is not hard, and like, I'm not going to get into it, but look up ContraPoints, and I forget the episode, but ContraPoints, Natalie Wynn, the feminine penis, and you'll learn a little bit more about it. I might even touch on that subject later on, but the fact of the matter is that a woman's penis functions differently than a man's penis. Just does. Whatever you see in adult videos, usually that's due to things like male enhancement pills and Viagra and stuff like that. That's usually what is necessary for them to be that functional. Although I do know girls who maintain full functionality down there, and bless them, good for them. Good for them, and also, hey, can you top me? Seriously. But yeah, that doesn't happen with a lot of us. So yeah, sometimes you'll get people who are like, I don't know, I've never been with someone like that, and like I'm on the fence about it. And then you're like, look, I'll talk you through it. We could do like show and tell just to get used to it. And you might even like be like, hey, listen, I'll keep my pants on. You could take your pants off and stuff like that. And I'll do everything, and I'll take care of you. And then like, if you're comfortable with it, as we hang out more, then maybe we can concentrate on me a little bit. Which unfortunately is something that I've also done, is like, it's not about my pleasure. It's about your pleasure. And I'm willing to forego my own enjoyment just for your validation and acceptance. I don't want to do that anymore. But that's part of negotiations, and that's what we'll call it, the negotiations part. It's being like, hey, by the way, and then also like negotiations. And there's also another group there that, like, when they find out that you're trans, they're like, oh, I don't know, I've never done that before. And then you're like, this is what it's like. It's, you know what I mean? And then they're like, oh, I've had this one happen too, unfortunately. And then they're like, oh my God, I've never been with a trans person before. And like, oh, goes from, oh my God, I'll never do that to like, you know, like in the middle of a conversation with them. Oh, I'm looking at adult videos of it right now and I'm touching myself and I can't wait and this is going to be great and you're just exotic and I can't wait to do this with a girl like you, but not in that nice of words. And it's like, okay, so we completely went past like this is a shocker and an insecurity issue with your masculinity, and we've gone directly into now I am a fetish for you. Which that pendulum swings completely the other way. And it's like, I'm not just a fetish. I'm not just this exotic thing that you can check off your bucket list. And please don't, like, you know, boil me down to just the parts that I have. Although it happens sometimes. And it's a turn off, by the way, when people, especially guys, do that, when they're like, oh yeah, I'm looking at this girl now on a video and I'm looking at this girl now on a video and I can't wait to do that with you. And I'm like, you might not get exactly that with me. Like, porn is fantasy. And then there's the whole other part of it and stuff like that. Say that like you're like, hey, by the way, I'm trans. And they're either like, yes, I know, or I didn't know, but I'm willing to try. Or, okay, fine, let's do this. But like, you know, don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone and stuff. There's another point to it where it's like, from a cis man's point of view, or a cis man's thought process on this, is my being attracted to you, or is my engaging with you physically, does that make me, the cis man, gay? And it's like, no, because I'm a woman. It's not gay. And like, there's gonna be comments where people are like arguing, Ashley, that does because and they're like, people are, you know, no, for a hetero cis man to find a trans woman attractive or to engage with her, that doesn't make him gay. That doesn't even make him queer. He might be, well, maybe not gay, but he might be queer, or he might not be entirely heterosexual and stuff like that. But like, even if he was entirely heterosexual, it's a heterosexual act. This is getting down to like one of those like alpha male type things where it's like, you know, going down on a girl is gay because, you know, you're submitting to her needs. And I'm talking like going down on a cis girl. It's like, at what point is being a man making love to a woman considered unmanly? You know? So you may get, in fact, it does happen from time to time. If you're a girl like me and you're talking with guys, this whole rationale of like, does my liking you make me queer? And it's like, no, it doesn't.